In all types of entertainment, there's a desire to have a successful launch. The movie biz keeps banging on about opening weekends, and game developers and publishers do it too, with their talk of pre-order numbers and first week sales. It'd be forgiven for thinking that a game's success rests on how well it does out of the gate. The truth, however, is that success can sometimes be found later. Much later. We'll be looking at 10 of those games today, whether it be down to a lack of hype, confusing advertisements, or sheer bad luck. These games took significantly longer than usual to reach their peak popularity. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the games on this list are now all global megastars. Some of them barely fall into the category of known, never mind well-known. One thing is for sure though, years after their initial release, their reputation and renown increased considerably. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are 10 games that took years to find their audience. Number 10. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Okay, this one needs some explanation. After all, The Witcher 3 had a great pre-launch, raking in an impressive amount of pre-orders. It sold well post-launch, dominating early 2015 sales. It even sold more than 4 million copies within the first 2 weeks, which is undoubtedly impressive. Right, so it may seem I'm not making the strongest case for The Witcher 3 being worthy of a list about games that took years to become popular, and you're thinking me a damned fool. Well, maybe, but bear with me. A year after release, The Witcher 3 hit 10 million sales. That's excellent, and The Witcher 3 kept going. In 2019, 4 years after release, it hit 20 million sales. Later that year, a successful Netflix adaptation brought a whole new spike of popularity to the game, and as of April 2020, it had sold 28 million copies. That's right, not only did it sell another 8 million copies in around 4 months, but this was about 5 years after release. Relatively speaking, the bulk of the game's audience found it well after it was old news. I hope they enjoyed it, because the new news from the developer hasn't been quite as positive, has it? Number 9. SOULSBORNE games. Talking about a large section of a developer's catalogue instead of just one game can seem a tad like cheating, but it took a good while for gamers in general to warm to the hurts so good approach of FromSoft. What we now call SOULSBORNE started to truly take shape in Demon Souls way back in 2009. The respawning enemies, incredible difficulty, epic bosses, and bleak atmosphere were all present and accounted for there. They've evolved over time, of course, with the developer honing its approach well in advance of the massive audience that was destined to come. By the time of 2015's Bloodborne and 2019's Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, the games went from being curious novelties to being massively anticipated launches. To bring the whole thing full circle, the remake of Demon Souls is, as of this writing, the highest acclaimed game on PlayStation 5. Fitting for the games themselves, it's persistence that allowed FromSoft to succeed. The developer even has one of the most anticipated upcoming games right now in Elden Ring. Number 8. Minecraft. Yes, discussing Minecraft on YouTube is about as overdone as the Flame Lurker's steak, but it's a good fit for this list. Minecraft went from an obscure one-man indie creation in 2009 to hitting 1 million sales by the time it went into beta in 2011. This was an impressive feat, particularly as Minecraft was a small project with no formal advertising. But, and this doesn't really need explaining at this point, Minecraft just kept getting more popular. As of May 2020, Minecraft had hit 200 million sales with 126 million monthly players. Simply ludicrous numbers. Bear in mind that in 2014 it reached 60 million sales, which already made it one of the highest selling games ever, and at that point it was already 5 years old. None of this even considers the free-to-play success of Minecraft China, which had 300 million users by 2019. This is just getting silly now. Number 7. EARTHBOUND. You often hear about artists of previous eras who died without knowing the eventual impact of their work. Those who've watched the Vincent van Gogh episode of Doctor Who know exactly what I'm talking about. In this case, Shigesato Itoi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, I'm very sorry, can count himself lucky. It only took decades for his quirky little labour of love to receive its rightful acclaim. The Western world all but dismissed EARTHBOUND back in 1994. It was seen as a typical JRPG with outdated graphics. Nice to know the industry has always been this superficial. It didn't get terrible reviews, but it didn't get glowing ones either, and its bizarrely negative negative advertising campaign wasn't helping matters. Like one-hit wonder Chesney Hawks, EARTHBOUND faded into relative obscurity. In 2013, EARTHBOUND made a return on Nintendo's Virtual Console, the company's one-stop shop for decades-old re-releases. With the re-release came the re-reviews, and with them, a wave of critics who said, "Hang on a minute, this is actually really good." Better late than never, I suppose. Number 6. Skate 3. Well, that about sums up why Skate 3 became popular again in 2014. And I suppose you want to know more, do you? Skate 3 almost seems like it was built for YouTube. It's not plot-focused, so commentating over the top is easy. There's a park editor feature for creating levels, and most importantly, it's so glitchy that Todd Howard peers at it enviously through his rainy bedroom window. It only makes sense then that the YouTube elite took Skate 3 and transformed it into a viral phenomenon. Back in 2014, you couldn't move for Skate 3 glitch compilation videos with titles composed solely of capital letters. But it's 2014 that's the point of interest here, because Skate 3 didn't come out in 2014. It was released in 2010. In fact, EA actually ended up reprinting the game due to demand, and we've been seeing it charting highly as recently as October 2020. If a lot of falling over is all it takes to regularly reach the trending page, I know exactly what we need to do. Number 5. Pepsiman. A shameless act of self-gratification in video game form, Pepsiman was to Pepsi what Twitter is to Kanye West. Just look at it. It's a level of advertisement so garish it could be mistaken for parody. It's not, however. Instead, Pepsiman is so overstuffed with advertisements that the game appears to be parodic, yet is still directly advertising to you. Irony in a nutshell. Or in a Pepsi can, I suppose. So why is Pepsiman remembered when in actuality it's just another bad advertising game? Well, if we're honest, you're looking at it, not TripleJump specifically, but YouTube in general. The sheer absurdity of 1999's Pepsiman is enough to justify the abundance of videos that brought it to the public eye. Combine that with the fact that Pepsi is already a world-famous brand, and you have a lycra-clad image that was destined for a YouTube thumbnail. So, Pepsiman, is it good? No. Is it fascinating? Yes. Are you as sick of the word Pepsi as I am? I'm just going to assume that's a yes. Let's move on. Number 4. PENN and TELLER'S Smoke and Mirrors. The story of PENN and TELLER'S Smoke and Mirrors is a fascinating one. Originally set for release on the Sega CD in 1995 and starring the titular celebrity magicians, of course, Smoke and Mirrors was a series of minigames designed to trick your friends. A gag gift, basically, but in the form of an expensive video game exclusive to an expensive console. Hilarious. As it happened, it never released. A number of review copies were sent out before the developer went out of business, however, and one of them made its way to game preservationist Lost Levels. That's why we have it, and the now famous Desert Bus today. Desert Bus is a minigame about driving a bus across a desert. Shocking, I know, for an 8-hour journey in a straight line. It unfolds in real time as well. If that sounds like a painfully dull experience, it is. If it doesn't sound like a painfully dull experience, who are you? Beginning 12 years after the intended release of Smoke and Mirrors, a charity livestream of Desert Bus has become an annual tradition. In fact, Desert Bus for Hope has raised millions of dollars for great causes. Not a bad legacy for an unreleased Sega CD game from the mid-90s. Still, I can't recommend you play it for yourself. After 5 minutes, you'll want to desert this bus. Number 3. Night Trap. Hey look, it's the Sega CD again! Yay! Night Trap should be a forgotten relic of the 90s, but it isn't, and for one particular reason: controversy. Every gamer has heard the nonsense claims that video games cause violence. There was even a US congressional hearing in 1993 about video games and their capacity for inciting carnage. During the hearing, 2 games were mentioned in particular: Mortal Kombat and Night Trap. This scene in particular was a central point in the hearing. Yes, really. Comedy goons, dressed like they're in Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin, shuffling around like arthritic crabs and brandishing a weapon so ludicrous that a Monster Hunter game would say it's a bit much. Actually, no thank you. It's a wonder that any child managed to stave off their genocidal tendencies when games such as Night Trap were around. The hearings did lead to the creation of the ESRB rating system after all, and they also changed Night Trap's fortunes. It went from being an underselling product on a console that nobody bought to becoming one of the most notable games games in the world. Still, maybe it should have stayed in the 90s. Number 2. Euro Truck Simulator 2. A 2013 simulator that solely focuses on driving trucks around Europe hit a record 61,000 concurrent Steam users 7 years after release in March of 2020. That is simply ludicrous. Bear in mind that number is not just about sales. That figure is the amount of people who are playing the game at the same time. So, why is it so popular? In response, I ask, why is Animal Crossing so popular? Why is Tetris so popular? Well, there's a serenity to be found in games that are simple and predictable. It's the calm that people crave. That's why Euro Truck Simulator 2 has had people coming back so many years after release. There are no gimmicks here. The trucks won't morph into Optimus Prime or reverse at 1,000,000 miles per hour like in big rigs. None of them will turn sentient and try to murder you, and you won't even be hijacked mid-drive by a rambunctious group of edgy drifters. No, Euro Truck Simulator 2 is just a peaceful game about trucking, and it's really trucking good. I'm joking, of course, I haven't played it. Number 1. Among Us. The word viral is normally associated with two things: infectious diseases and stuff posted to the internet. I'm not saying there is a correlation between the two, but there's definitely a correlation. We've already talked about one world-famous viral game in Minecraft, so I'm sure what you all wanted was another description of a game that you're still hearing about every 10 minutes. What can I say, except you're welcome. The social deduction phenomenon that is Among Us was diagnosed as viral in mid-2020. It'd be understandable if you thought that it was launched at around that time, but it actually came out in June 2018. While there was a smaller surge of sales in 2019 in Brazil, Mexico, and Korea, it was when Among Us hit US Twitch like a train that it gained the status of global sensation. We could call that phenomenon Among US. We could, but we will not, and neither will you. The COVID-19 pandemic that started in 2020 almost certainly contributed to its popularity, just as it did with Jackbox and Fall Guys, but it's possible that the rise of Among Us would have taken place regardless. Stranger things have happened after all. For instance, every other single event in 2020. And that's our list. Let's hope it doesn't take years for this video to find its audience as well. In fact, help us avoid that fate by letting us know what games we missed in the comments below. Like Rainbow Six Siege. I know, how is that not on here? See? Correcting us is fun. You can follow myself and TripleJump on Twitter here, and while you're at it, why not support the things you enjoy by having a look at our Patreon. Finally, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and thanks for watching.